If you've ever walked large parts of the Ironman marathon, if your pace collapsed late in the race, if the final 10 to 15k was just about survival, then your pacing was probably going wrong hours earlier. In about 75% of my own Ironman races, I felt okay until 20 to 25k in, and then bang, the pace dropped off like going over a cliff. And at the end of the race, I questioned my running fitness and the amount of miles that I'd run in training. The real problem I learned many years later is that most athletes think pacing means don't go too hard. The thing is, it's a great deal more than that. Ironman pacing is discipline, it's restraint, it's patience. And most people get emotionally carried away early in the race, and all of those things go out the window. Starts in the swim. If it feels hard, then the overbike to get time back. Sometimes your swim split is slower because of the conditions, poor sighting, or simply because the course is a bit longer than you'd planned. But many athletes panic here, and of course they try to claw that time back on the bike, and they go a bit too hard. So that is a huge mistake because the race hasn't really started when you come out of the swim. Then on the bike, and this is where most races unravel. Athletes ride slightly above their target, 1 to 2% above their FTP pace, not 10%. They go too aggressively on the climbs, rolling the big gear along instead of easing back and spinning. They go too hard into headwinds, trying to keep the speed up and looking at kilometres per hour rather than maintaining decent pace and wattage. They ride emotionally instead of strategically, chasing club mates or another age group rival. I've heard so many post-race stories of athletes comparing bike splits when the time that really matters is the finish time. So if you go too hard, you just don't realise it on the bike, but the punishment arrives later on in the day. Ironman marathon is often just a reflection of your bike pacing. And as I discovered and mentioned earlier, it's not about your running fitness. So let's think about ego and heart rate. Most athletes pace with emotion, not with patience. Especially incidences like early overtaking. They chase a teammate who goes past them, or age group rivals who you think you're faster than, and then aim to keep up. They may just be having a good spell. You get adrenaline, you get carried away with the occasion. You get carried away by the crowd, and I've seen this, people charging up hills and they're needing to recover. Perfect example is Tenby Hill in Wales. And you feel great, and you forget about the restraint. The problem is everyone feels great halfway through the race, and that's probably T2. So here's the 10k truth. It's the final 10k, and that exposes everything. It exposes the pacing and the overbiking. It exposes the nutrition when you forgot to eat or drink in line with your plan. And it exposes your lack of discipline when you got carried away with the occasion, you went a little too hard, or you rose to the cheers of the crowd. And it exposes the lack of restraint, being patient enough to wait for the final 15k. And that's where the truth comes out. So good pacing feels controlled. It almost feels frustratingly easy early on, like you're holding yourself back. And I have a mantra that I say to people that are doing their first Ironman. If it feels too right, it's too hard. If it feels too easy, then it's probably right. And that's why many athletes get it wrong. I can tell you that 2 stories come out generally. There are those people who felt like they could have gone harder on the bike. They're the ones who tend to have the best runs. And the ones who got to the end saying, I felt I got it just right on the bike, well, you know what? They're the people who faded at 25k and struggled to the finish. So remember this. Most athletes doing Ironman don't fail because they lack fitness. They fail because they burn those matches way too early on in the day. See, it's fitness what gets you to the start line, but it's your pacing that determines whether you actually use that fitness correctly. Now, in the next video, I'm going to talk about tapering, because never mind getting to the finish line, lots of athletes arrive at race week already exhausted, and the race is pretty much done at that point.